Welcome to Muslim Community Report, live from the studios of Bronx Net. My name is Sheikh Moussa Drammeh. I'm your host. Today, we're here to talk about one of the greatest milestones in the history of the United States of America. We're gonna be talking about Claudette Colvin. You see, when you ask people from all walks of life, from all racial background, do you know Rosa Parks? Every hand is up. Everybody say yes. What do you know of her? They can tell you, 2-hour-long story about Rosa Parks. Then you change the subject and said, by the way, do you know Claudette Colvin? Nobody hand will go up. People do not know Claudette Colvin. And then you spend 10 minutes highlighting who Claudette Colvin is and what she has done, and people say, wait a minute, how come we never learn about that? How come I did not know? Well, that is the reason why we're doing this show. Today, we're talking about an event that just took place, at St. Helena's Church, because Claudette Colvin called Parkchester home since 1958 after escaping Montgomery, Alabama, because Claudette Colvin was the first to refuse to get up from her seat for a white woman. And her statement was, I have the constitutional right not to get up. I pay my fee, I'm not getting up. And that was done 9 months before Rosa Parks. So since she did that, she could no longer get a good job because she was deemed a trouble kid. Because stirring the movement, the civil rights movement, was very dangerous situation. And anybody who was part of it was being bothered and harassed and boycotted. So she could no longer get a job. So she escaped to New York, and she called Bronx home ever since. So today, what you are seeing is an event taking place at St. Helena's Church, dedicating Union Port Road as Claudette Colvin Way. A beautiful milestone. We have elected officials. We have Assemblyman Jose Rivera, who created Claudette Colvin Day March 2nd. And we have City Council member Ruben Diaz Sr., who made it possible for Claudette Colvin to be sponsored and the speaker to sign on it. And all the other community activists are here celebrating. But the most important thing of it all, Claudette Colvin and her family are present. They're here rejoicing of something that should have been done long time ago. But I guess it took people like us to make it happen. And we told her, as beautiful as this milestone is, you have not seen anything. Our goal here is to making sure that the misinformation about your contributions will be fixed. The neglect of including you into some of the most important aspects of the civil rights movement, we will make sure that that is done. We will make sure that every school will have proper information about your contribution. We started with Claudette Colvin Day, now we have the Claudette Colvin Way, and we had reached out to White House during Obama's presidency. And Obama replied to us saying that, they're working on, giving her, the Medal of Freedom. So that since Obama is not here, the next president, I am sure, will issue it. Our goal here is that whatever Rosa Parks gets, nationally and internationally, Claudette Colvin will get it, or even more, because she is the one who's the catalyst for the movement. She's the one whose case went to court. She's the one whose victory should be credited to. So that is why you have all these people celebrating Claudette Colvin Day. So this is one of the many milestones we have been embarking on for the past 5 years. So we are very grateful for all the supporters and all the well-wishers and everyone who wants to see her story shine as daylight, because she deserves it. So with that being said, I thank you very much, and I ask you to follow us up as we move toward righting the wrong concerning Honorable Claudette Colvin And we already achieved Claudette Colvin Day, and we now just achieved Claudette Colvin Way, and we will achieve more. Thank you, and I look forward to having this dialogue about Claudette Colvin for weeks and months and years to come. God bless you. And God bless the United States of America. And thank you, Claudette Colvin, for your contributions to our liberties and freedoms. Thank you.
So we're not going to have this huge long program, but we have enough stuff to just to let you know how much we love you and then how much we appreciate you. Okay, my name is Edward Thomas Ranger. This is Peter Regina. He's going to co-host with me.
My name is Pete Regina, and I was the MC of last year's event downstairs at St. Helen's Church. Thank you again for hosting us, Father David. And it was my wonderful pleasure to be able to recognize, unfortunately, our honoree was a little under the weather that day. But we did have a number of organizations and people that came by to honor her. And I've gotten the chance to take this story to the United Nations, to the African Union, and to several conferences, colleges around the area. And there's always been an amazing response, no matter where it's been told. And it's funny, the reason that I got injected into this whole path was because of these lights right here. These lights are peace lights, and they played all around the world. They played at the United Nations now 40 times, and Times Square and 6 or 7 continents. The colors here represent the different cultures in the world, and the motion represents how those cultures interact and work together to achieve harmony, peace, and good energy. It was because of these lights that I initially got invited to meet with the African Union ambassador to the United Nations. And that was at the end of 2015, very soon after the first time they played at the first event honoring Claudette at the Bronx Library. What I have over here are a couple slides. I'm going to shift to this microphone right here. I'm going to show 3 things that I've shown every time I speak about this story. And not only this story, but how this story relates to future generations for the 1.4 billion people in the African Union. And what I say is that in order to really appreciate the context of the contribution of the acts of our honorary Claudette today, we need to recognize that from this book, there was a quote that said that Claudette's actions accelerated the change in the plight of colored people. Accelerated the change. Now I typed in Google, plight of colored people, 1955. And this is what came up. This is a map of the lynchings that happened between the end of the Civil War and 1955. And to just put this into a little bit of context, this is Montgomery, Alabama, right here. So there are some big circles in there. I had an epiphany. That epiphany at that moment was that you could say that the plight of colored people in 1955 could be measured legitimately in deaths per day. And eventually, those deaths per day went down. Right? Whenever. It went down. If Claudette's actions accelerated the change in the plight of colored people, then what that means is that it pushed this curve to the left. So it took this curve and it pushed it that direction. It's accelerating the change in the plight. And what that means is there are people who are no longer under the curve. Those people are literally lives saved. So every time I talk about this, I say that this woman right here literally saved lives, and she needs to be acknowledged for that. So I think that's something that needs to be understood. Now, I was always interested in where that knowledge came from, because I'm not going to retell the story, but learning and knowing your rights was at the heart of that day. And the learning of the rights is really at the cornerstone of making things better today. Learning and knowing your human rights is at the cornerstone of making everything better, especially in the African Union, the most conflict-ridden part of the world, where they specifically call for peace education. So there is a tie between Claudette Colvin and one of the aspirations in the 50-year plan for 20% of the world, and it circles around peace education. And I have gone on record, and I am continuing and commit to you that I will continue until we see the African Union honor Claudette Colvin. And there should be schools opening up with your name, and I will not stop until that happens. So thank you very much. Let's get back to the number of people we have to speak today. And
thank you so much, Peter. There's one thing I want to add. Every time I speak to people, especially our youth, and people from other countries and nations that come over to America, I let them know that Jim Crow was not black and white, okay? It was color. Whatever color you were, whatever color. Italian, I'm sorry. Whatever color you were, Jim Crow was not black and white. And from the African Americans, everybody had to can benefit now from just the steps that a 15-year-old person made. And every last one of our African American ancestors, which is why it's so important for us to know who we are. Okay, because we make a difference. And for all the kids, I want you to know we make a difference. This is why we're here. This is why we're doing this. This is why we will not stop. Okay. On that note, I'd like to invite the CEO of African American Women in Cinema, Ms. Drammeh. She has been with Peace December and one of our own. She's magnificent, maverick.
Yes, she is.
Let's give her something.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
This is such an awesome honor. I would like to thank Peace December for the courage, the strength, the energy to keep it moving until we are here today. So please, let's just give them a round of applause. It is so much, Honorable Colvin, that I can say about you today. It is because of you I exist to do what I am presently doing and pave the way to those who were your age when you took the stand to tell stories in this medium called film. When we started 22 years ago and looked at the stats of the major unions in Hollywood for women of color to get work or who have worked, we start seeing figures like 0.03%, 0.06%. And even now, 2020, it shifted a little bit due to the technology, and I'm very pleased with that. But still getting a film made through the Hollywood system is still a challenge. I can count on the palm of my hand how many women of color have actually went through the system to get a major film done. But I am pleased, in spite of all of that, to say that those who can are getting it done. My friend Casey Lemons, who directed the film Harriet, I hope you all seen it. Have you all seen Harriet? Thank you. So it's the women like that who we embrace and who we provide a platform for, because Honorable Colvin, you sat down, took a stand, we were able to take a stand and tell our stories in this medium, stories that matter, stories that are important to the community. And because of your courage, we have the courage to continue until we see full diversity from generations to come. God bless you all.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon. Today is a special day, especially when we have so many people in a rainy day to honor a lady that deserves to be honored. You know, I have my friend, retired Army Sergeant John Perez, and my colleague, City Council member colleague, Andy King, my friend, and so many of you. I want to tell you that Beverly Roberts and Helena, Moussa, where's Moussa? Moussa, where's Moussa? They came to me as a city council member of the area to see if we could name the street. When I presented it to the city council, they denied it because the rules said that no street will be named if the person is still alive. And because when Colvin was alive, they denied it. But I went to Beverly and I told him, Beverly said, we gotta keep fighting.
Go back.
We don't accept that. And then I said, how come they did it for the picture of the young man? Mariano Rivera. How come they do it? And they're not going to do it for this lady? So I went back there. And then we started fighting, and then finally the city council agreed, and today there is a gentleman, someone you saw, we unveiled the street in the name of this beautiful lady that has done so much for us. So thank you very much to all of you. Thank you, Beverly, Moussa, Helena, and all of you that have been working on this. And those of you that push people like me to do things. So thank you. I'm honored to have done it. Thank you very much.
Miss Claudette Colvin has been a catalyst for change. Today, we are honored and humbled to be in the presence of history, a significant part of American history. Miss Claudette Colvin was 15 years old when she was arrested and thrown in jail. She was charged with violating the city's segregation law. All because she felt it was her constitutional right to remain in her seat because she paid her fare. She adamantly refused to give up her seat to a white woman when ordered by the bus driver to do so. Her refusal sparked the civil rights movement. At just 15 years old, Miss Claudette dared to do what few of us would have dared. In an era where turmoil was prevalent and tempers run rampant, an era where the Black community lived in darkness, fear, and surrounded by imminent death. An era where any African American that defied their boundary were met by being ridiculed, arrested, beaten, shot at, lynched, or stripped of their dignity. But not Miss Claudette Colvin. She dared to turn a blind eye to the horrors that was a constant and a stain in Black lives. Because of her staunch refusal, her audacity to remain sitting, today we can all sit down. She took a stand that benefited us all. She has changed countless lives and saved an unsurmountable amount. It is stated that Miss Claudette Colvin inspired Rosa Parks and the Montgomery bus boycott movement. But please allow me to clarify, you, Miss Claudette, has been an inspiration inspiration to us all. Black, white, yellow, brown, purple, you name it. If it wasn't for you, laws would not have changed when it did. It was your action that led to many laws being enacted, ruling segregation unconstitutional. You have been a sacrificial lamb. You put your life in danger for all of us. You were the key player and instrumental in your desire for equality, your desire for desegregation, your desire for social justice. You were the initiator that sparked civil rights movement. Thank you for rising to the challenge and staring racial discrimination in the face. You have been a gift to humanity. A true hero, you changed the face of America. Thanks for being that change. Thanks for your courage, your leadership, your bravery, your resiliency. You are history at its best. We applaud your sacrificial efforts, and Ms. Claudette, we will live by your example to ensure that justice is served where it is deserved.
This morning I received a phone call from Kathleen Howard. I met Kathleen on the same day that I met this young, wonderful people. It was slightly before 5 years ago. It was exactly, I believe, on December of 2014. And I was invited to go visit and listen to some of my friends that live on this side of town. Sheikh, Moussa. And it was the first time I sat there and I started listening to the Sheikh. And he began to speak about someone who played a leading role in the history of the civil rights struggle. Now, I can tell you, I'm a product of the civil rights struggle. I can tell you Puerto Ricans lined up with Dr. Martin Luther King back in 1963. And there are those of you who don't believe it because after all, the library never tells anybody's story in the correct way. No offense, man, okay? Not every piece of history is documented. So it was in those days that Puerto Rican, like Joseph Montserrat, who was the head of the Puerto Rican agency, that made it easier for Puerto Ricans living in Puerto Rico under the crisis of the to begin to settle in this town. And it was Helena who in that fateful day began to mobilize the Puerto Rican community. And you want to hear it, you want to see it, just go to Hunter College Puerto Rican Studies program. Because since the day we began to come to this country, we began to understand the importance of documenting history from your point of view, because if you let others write it for you, then this country is never guilty of ever having slaves. George Washington never had a slave. None of these guys ever had slaves. If you let them write history, we don't count. So, about 10,000 Puerto Ricans got on buses from different parts of the state and outside of the state, and they gathered in Washington, D.C. So very well documented. Me? How can I not learn it from those days? not show up for every important event that acknowledges the contribution of those who made a real contribution to where we're at. All my life, I admire, and I still do, Rosa Parks. We all love Rosa Parks. We do. I'm a product of Rosa Parks. I'm a product of Edgar Evans. I'm a product of the struggle of Martin Luther King. What do I mean by that? If it had not been for Edgar Evans, who began to organize during the civil rights struggle, the movement to also include the right for people to be able to register a vote. It was that movement that made it possible. It was that movement that made it possible for then Herman Badillo to be part of it and come up with a bill in Congress calling about promoting a bill in Congress promoting the right for you to register, not knowing what a beggar is to give. Because before that, Puerto Ricans and Latinos, if you didn't know how to read and write good English, you will never be allowed to register to vote. Go look it up. This is the congressional records. Might not be in your library. This is the congressional records. So that was changed. So I would be an ingrate if sometime in December, when I walked into something that eventually became Peace December, I don't know why I'm the only one still wearing the jacket.
Got the t-shirt. I didn't get one. Got the t-shirt.
My brother here, what's your jacket? This was given to me by our Sheikh, and I wear it proudly. I wear it very proudly.
Let me begin by asking you all to rise. At this particular moment in the history of the world, we have the single most powerful voice in the last century with us. Throughout the world, we have what no other venue has at this particular moment. Someone who has not only changed his nation for the better and make it a more perfect union, but changed the world for the better. Because of what he did, the world has changed, and the world will never go back to Jim Crow laws because of that. So thank you. Now let me briefly tell you how this day happened. We run a peace movement. 10 years ago, we were fed up with violence, crime, gang violence, domestic violence, racial violence, religious violence, political violence. We were fed up with violence. And we organized